Thanks for joining us. And today we're going to talk about, is in-person Kriya Yoga initiation necessary? Can you truly be initiated into Kriya Yoga without ever setting foot in a physical ashram or receiving Diksha from a spiritual teacher face to face? For centuries, in-person initiation was non-negotiable. But with the world changing, is this tradition still the only path? We'll dive into these historical requirements and whether they hold up in today's spiritual landscape. Diksha is a spiritual initiation where a guru bestows spiritual energy, blessings, and sacred knowledge upon a disciple. This process traditionally requires physical proximity between a teacher and a student for the transfer of Shaktipata, spiritual power. Diksha is a central event in both Hinduism and in Jainism, involving rituals, vows, and significant spiritual transformation for the disciple. There are several key elements of traditional Diksha. Number one, the guru-disciple relationship, or guru parampara. The guru's physical presence, touch, or even voice is considered as crucial for the successful transfer of Shaktipata, the spiritual energy, and divine grace. Spiritual energy transfer. The act is not merely symbolic, but it's a profound transfer of vital energy from the guru to awaken the disciple's inner potential. Sacred knowledge and mantras. Diksha often includes the transmission of sacred mantras with the emphasis on correct pronunciation of those mantras and precise ritual actions. According to a traditional viewpoint, for the energy and sensory intimacy required, especially in tantric traditions, the guru's physical presence is emphasized as being essential. So when we look at Diksha in different spiritual traditions, we see some conformity. In Hinduism, Diksha involves various rituals depending on the specific tradition, often culminating in the transfer of spiritual knowledge and the destruction of sin or ignorance. In Jainism, a person takes vows to adhere to ascetic principles and detachment from worldly possessions. So why is physical proximity valued in Diksha? Well, energetic intimacy. The close physical connection facilitates a profound exchange of vital energy, prana shakti, between the guru and the disciple. Accuracy in ritual. Precision in ritual actions and mantra utterance can be compromised, potentially, by technological limitations, making in-person ceremonies more reliable for spiritual efficacy. Deep connection. Many traditions emphasize a deeper, more immediate and unmediated connection for the initiation process, which is difficult to replicate through online mediums. In the last few years, there has been a rising global interest in Kriya Yoga. However, many aspiring Kriya Yoga students face geographical barriers to learning the practice from a teacher face-to-face. At the same time, we're seeing the rise of a number of spiritual training opportunities through online platforms. When we look at the proliferation of online spiritual courses and initiations, we have to ask, are they truly authentic or just informational? In today's global world, there are many more students than are qualified teachers of Kriya Yoga. While there are some Kriya Yoga teachers who travel and teach internationally, Kriya Yoga is at heart a householder path. Yogi Raj Lahiri Baba, the originator of Kriya Yoga, was a householder and had a full-time job until his retirement. Kriya Yoga Acharyas, authorized teachers of Kriya Yoga, are rarely religious specialists, but are householders who are busy with their familial and worldly responsibilities. They rarely have the time to tour the world giving workshops. To receive initiation in person, therefore, the onus is on the student to travel to see the teacher, and the teacher may have limited availability. Although traditional views of Diksha posit that the physical proximity to the teacher is the operative factor in spiritual transmission, this is an exoteric understanding of an esoteric process. Any outward ritual or ceremony without an esoteric core will have no effect. For example, if the teacher doesn't have a certain level of awakening, even if they are in close proximity to the student, there will likely be little, if any, spiritual transmission to the student. Similarly, if the student is not receptive to the teacher or the teachings, This will block the spiritual transmission during initiation. So if it's not physical proximity that confers spiritual transmission, what does? To answer this question, we have to look deeper at Shaktipata. Shaktipata is the transmission of spiritual energy to the aspirant, usually conferred through a mantra, a look, a touch, or other conduit, and is often associated with Diksha, initiation. In traditional teachings, Shaktipata is believed to come directly from the divine. Since spirit is non-localizable and independent of the constraints of spatial dimensions, it is illogical to believe that physical proximity limits the spiritual transmission in Shaktipata. Shaktipata then occurs independently when a student is receptive and there is a powerful conduit, such as an illumined teacher or an impressive experience, regardless of distance. In ancient traditions, it was recognized that spontaneous Shaktipata is essential before one is ready to encounter the physical guru. For without this initial spiritual awakening or inclination, one would be unable to recognize the value of the spiritual teachings. In addition to Shaktipata, the deciding factors about whether initiation is effective or not isn't about online or in person, but really depends on the effectiveness of the practice, the method of instruction, and the support the student has during the learning process. In the past, if you received Diksha in an ashram or from a householder guru, you would receive in-person instruction in a meditative practice and some support through the Sangha, the spiritual community, such as senior students, with your sadhana. In the original Kriya Yoga of Yogiraj Lahiri Baba, the first chapter of Kriya, the first initiation, was given by the teacher to the student in one face-to-face sitting. If you were lucky, you would get some personal guidance from the guru, but it was rare, and often only individuals in the guru's inner circle would get regular attention. However, even these in-person methods didn't assure the student's success. Even if a student was physically present for Diksha, they may not have been receptive and therefore couldn't receive the Shaktipata necessary for full transmission that would empower their practice. They may not have received the correct instructions on the practice, or they may have misunderstood them, which would have negatively impacted their sadhana, spiritual practice. Their teacher may also have not been accessible to them, so they couldn't receive feedback on a regular basis, which is really essential for refining and perfecting one's spiritual practice, especially in Kriya Yoga. So if you're considering an online alternative to in-person Kriya Yoga initiation, what should you look for? First of all, choose a lineage that teaches the original Kriya Yoga. This ensures that there haven't been any modifications to Kriya Yoga that weaken the practice. A prime example of an authentic lineage that teaches the original Kriya Yoga is the Panchanan Bhattacharya lineage. Panchananji was Lahiri Baba's preeminent disciple, and he set the gold standard for subsequent generations of Kriyabans. Avoid Kriya Yoga teachers who make dubious claims about their spiritual accomplishments or mythical connections to past masters. These teachers usually teach a composite version of Kriya Yoga, which has been cobbled together from several different sources, including modified versions of Kriya and some non-Kriya techniques. The result is a spiritual cocktail that can have negative effects on students. For more information about how to recognize spiritual charlatans, see the video Kriya Yoga and Spiritual Frauds, linked above. Second, ensure that oral instruction is provided in the Guru Parampara tradition, from teacher to student. This means that written instructions such as Kriya Yoga lessons are not sufficient for learning Kriya Yoga. Third, ensure that the teacher is available to provide feedback on your practice. Having your technique checked periodically by a teacher will help you to continue to refine your practice to support your spiritual progress. In summary, Diksha initiation is an essential part of Kriya Yoga and embodies the oral tradition of Guru Parampara. It allows for the transfer of knowledge and techniques to the student, and it provides an opportunity for Shaktipata, spiritual empowerment. Although physical proximity to the teacher during Diksha is traditionally considered as necessary, Shaktipata functions outside of the confines of physical limitations. The logistical challenges of physical initiation may spur the student to seek online alternatives. If these online alternatives are to be considered, it's essential for the student to find an accessible teacher from an authentic lineage that teaches the original Kriya Yoga through an oral format. So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to send me an email at info@modernkriya.com. Also check our website at modernkriya.com and our YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.